industry representatives, state regulators, and environmental representatives, including Wilma Supra, who I think a lot of you know here has been very active in the air emissions. And I chaired a group that developed draft guidelines for the Barnett Shale hydraulic fracturing, or in general, hydraulic fracturing. One of the recommendations of that group was that Stronger consider developing guidelines for air emissions for hydraulic fracturing activities. So it has been an issue that I've been involved in and that we are interested in, and we do realize that maybe some work needs to be done on this. The Railroad Commission also realizes that complying with certain Railroad Commission regulations related to well, tank, gas processing equipment, and pipeline control, maintenance, and conservation can minimize gas and other releases and potential negative impacts such releases may have on air quality. For example, we had a statewide Rule 13 where an operator is responsible for compliance during all operations of the well and must effectively control the well at all times. There were some surveys that were done by IR that indicated some releases of emissions at certain well sites. We found out that the operator maybe had not been quite as diligent as the operator might have been on a couple of valves. That was fixed, easily fixed, inexpensively fixed. And so we sent out a special notice to the operators and put special information on our website, reminding operators that this is an easy fix for a problem, and that they probably needed to do a little bit of proactive work before we went out there and inspected, or maybe TCEQ or EPA went out and inspected these facilities. We hope that that has some effect, because we do believe that some of this might just be like housekeeping. We think that this is, La Paz, Texas supplies 20% of the nation's oil and a fourth of its natural gas. It is a vitally important issue to Texas, not only from a public health standpoint, but also from an economic standpoint, with tens of thousands of jobs at stake. State money, I get my paycheck from the state, is important to me. My nephews are educated in a state public school, so it's important to me and to my sister. It's an important issue. I hope that we can carefully study and pinpoint any significant problems, and if there are any significant problems, tailor cost-effective solutions that will provide the biggest bang for everyone's ever-shrinking buck. I do realize that during the first presentation, you are required to study both the environmental and the economic impacts of any regulations that you propose. I urge you also to take a look at the potential safety impacts to both workers and to the people living in the area, particularly urban areas such as the Barnett Shale. You were talking about pop-off valves and emergency relief valves. I'm real concerned about, and I know others might be real concerned that some of these, it's kind of like my house. When I weather strip it so well that the household chemicals pose a threat to my health, I'm concerned about the workers and the people that are in the area. If you seal every leak, then you cause potential for other problems. I've also...
Let me just... You've gone a little bit over.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, so just to be fair to everybody, I just want to be sure that
I was so Okay, just one more thing, yes, and then I'll quit.
Yes.
One thing that I do want to mention, I know you all mentioned the inventory of the methane. I guess I'm a little bit concerned and confused because there's already the greenhouse gas inventory that's coming out. Is this a double counting? I'm not sure exactly how that fits into that. So I know I've gone over, so I just want to make sure that that is not a double count. Last thing I want to say is we have information available at the Railroad Commission. We'd like to participate. We'd like to be an active participant. And we have all kinds of information that we would like to make available to you.
I'd like to respond to the information about the question you had about the mandatory reporting rule versus what we're doing as far as being double counting on methane emissions. What I mean, in our project, we will be quantifying methane emissions along with all the criteria and toxic emissions, using emission factors and other methods available to us now The reporting rule won't be final until the end of this year, with reporting due by March of 2012. So that will not be online soon enough to help inform our process.
Okay. Will you use the same emission factors that were proposed in the GHG reporting?
I don't know exactly which ones we're using. I can't find, but I can find out.
Calculated.
We worked with them, actually. We're on their work group for that rule.
I'm sorry, I went right.
No worries.
And he's turned the bell off, buzzer.
I don't think we can control that, unfortunately. But thank you both very much. The next two speakers would be Lon Burnham and Alex Allred, please. State Representative Byrne, if you want to start, that would be great.
I'll be glad to start as long as apologies are extended to my colleague, Chairman Jim Pepper, who's chair of the Energy Resources Committee, and I know he's got more time line than I do. My comments are going to be very brief. I'm State Representative for Fort Worth. I'm serving, I've worked with you representing this District 90. I'm on the Environmental Regulatory Committee of the Texas House of Representatives, and my experience has been we've not done an adequate job of regulating the industry. And in fact, that's kind of a long-term problem, whether you're talking about the role of the Texas Railroad Commission or the TCEQ. I hadn't planned to speak today, but I was inspired to do so when I saw a sign being held by one of the Tea Party volunteers saying, "Don't mess with Texas." I'm here to tell you, Texas is a mess, and we need somebody interceding on our behalf. Neither of these two state agencies adequately regulated for public health and safety concerns. Neither of these agencies developed a good track record on behalf of the breeders in my district. The problems with this particular aspect of the industry are well known. The Environmental Defense Fund study suggests that 90% of your emissions could be reduced with adequate valve monitoring and maintenance. So I'm here on behalf of my inner city district, where most of my constituents are blue-collar employees, suggesting what we need is a full job employment program. We want to get the gas, but we want it pumped and we want it packed safely. And that can be done if they'll put as much money into blue-collar jobs, monitoring the valves, as they do into white-collar jobs, lobbying against adequate regulation. Thank you for your time.
I also did not, and I didn't know I was going to speak today. Then I saw that same sign. So that sign has a lot of power to it. I wish, honestly, that I could sit here and say that for economic reasons, we do need gas and oil, and drilling is necessary, and I understand that. I wish that I could live in an innocent world enough that I could just say that's what we need and campaign for that and let that be that. Unfortunately, I know differently. And when I moved, I am the daughter of a U.S. Senator and a U.S. diplomat, and I've lived all over the world. And I state that only because when I came to Texas, and I was surprised that I see that "Don't mess with Texas" sign all the time, and all it looks like anybody's doing is messing with Texas in a negative way. When I moved to Texas, I came here with the idea, I had a romantic idea that I was going to come and I was going to own horses and raise my kids here. And I got the land and I got the horses, and in a very short amount of time, my son was hospitalized 6 times in 2 months. I have neighbors who have all kinds of rare cancers. Right now, I have a very close neighbor to the left of me who has leukemia, and down the street, there's an 8-year-old girl whose cancer is so rare, there's only 8 cases like that in the Texas area. I mean, in the state of Texas. And at the age of 8, she's going to have her leg, her femur bone removed. And my neighbors all the time, I hear terrible stories all the time about all kinds of, if you look at the statistics, it was said earlier that maybe more could be done. A lot more can be done. Because if you look at the statistics of how many children are missing school because of asthma, if people would really pay attention, will understand that this is not this isn't just a little problem, this is a huge problem. And so I asked the EPA, when you're looking at all this, and I also implore the gas and drilling agencies, all the different companies, look at the human side of this. I know right now times are tough and this is about economics, and I do know that Texas, we need gas and oil, I understand that. But when you watch your child get hospitalized 6 times in 2 months, and before that he was a perfectly healthy child, when he moved here so that he could run and play outside, and now the air that I chose for him is killing him. And there are children all at his school, at his elementary school, the asthma baskets have quadrupled since we moved. This is horrible. And if you go to Midlothian, Texas, and I understand that if those of you familiar with Midlothian, Texas, know that it's not just the gas and oil, it's the cement. But this is about air pollution and air quality and taking ownership of what we're doing and not messing with Texas. And so I am here just to ask both sides, because I'm kind of standing in the middle. But I will say that I did join a group called Downwinders at Risk, not because I was looking to become an activist, but because I had to finally have a voice and have somebody hear me. For my children, for my neighbors' children, for my neighbors, for all these people who have all kinds of ailments. And it's not normal for neighbors to be able to tell you what benzene does to the human body. But where I live, because benzene is one of the emissions that's coming out, I have all these people with high school diplomas that sound like chemists, because they understand what happens to the human body, why their aunt just died, and why their son is in the hospital, and why their daughter's having her leg amputated. So that's all I want to say, but please, I ask both sides to stop looking at just the economics and to look at the human issue. Thank you.
Okay, our next 2 speakers are State Representative Jim Keffer and Rich Varela.
Good afternoon. How are you doing? Thank you for this time to come together and talk about this important issue. My name is Jim Keffer. I am chairman of the Energy Resource Committee in the House. So oil and gas, the renewable future of our state is under our purview. I have a written statement that I'd like to put in the record here to address, and then I have, since I am coming from politics, I have a political concern that I'd like to present and get myself in trouble very much after the The state of Texas has been extremely successful in improving air quality over the past decade. Since 2000, the state has achieved a 22% reduction in ozone and a 46% decrease in NOx emissions, compared to an 8% reduction in the national ozone levels and 27% reduction in national NOx levels in 2000 and 2008. Texas has achieved major pollution and emissions reductions while at the same time promoting economic prosperity and job creation, despite population growth of nearly 3.5 million over the past decade. Last week, the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality formally proposed new rules that will amend the regulations that govern oil and gas facility equipment. The rules will enhance control and regulation in order to minimize emissions and ensure that public health is protected. The proposal seeks to update the permit by rule and standard permit package that has been introduced for formal comment from the public and other stakeholders. The rule proposal updates administrative and technical requirements and includes enforceable monitoring, sampling, and record-keeping requirements. This proposal helps TCEQ make certain that the oil and gas facilities are properly operated and maintained in order to continue